And headed out of play for a Spurs throw on this near left-hand side, inside their own half, which Ben Davies will take. Matt Upson.
Yeah, just hooked onto Harry Kane, who's dropped deep again. I just love the way he drops in. Really poses such a difficult question for Anderson and Tosin when he does it. Do you go, do you stick, or do you twist? Such a difficult choice to make as a centre-back. If you allow him to go, he can turn and hurt you with the pass. You just feel at that point Lamina and Harrison have to be so aware of Kane dropping into that midfield. Your fullbacks have to be narrow. Don't allow the Spurs front four to create that space to isolate wide and allow Bale or Son 1v1s with your fullbacks.
We have our first yellow card of the night for a challenge by Ademola Lookman on Matt Doherty on the halfway line. Just seemed to...
I struggled to see how that was a yellow card. It was just, he went to ground, he kind of won the ball. It was almost like they all tackled each other and he came out with a yellow.
High ball forward looking for Kane, headed away by Anderson. Reed wasn't aware that Dele Alli was breathing down his shoulder. He's got it back. Bale is lucky to get the ball back to Dele Alli. Ali sends it in looking for Son, and Son at the far post heads wide. Good chance for the South Korean.
Yeah, good chance. Another nicely clipped ball to the back post from Dele Alli, very similar to one that Son played Kane. Just dinked in, got up high. Aina was nowhere near it. It was a little bit wide of the back post. And it was just a little bit low. If anything, he got too high. Didn't make him able to really punch the ball and get any kind of guidance or power on it. Just went harmlessly wide of the near post.
Could that have gone back across to Kane, who was lurking in the 6-yard box?
I think so. If he was able to get the kind of angle and the contact on the ball, he either could have punched it back inside the far post, as in an effort on goal, or, as you mentioned, just across the goal. But he jumped so early, Son. He's got a really good spring. He almost got up too high for the delivery of the ball.
So 5 minutes of the first half to go. Fulham 0, Tottenham 1, live on 5 Live and on BBC Sounds as well. And Tottenham have it back again with Højbjerg, who I think was playing it to Doherty, though I'm not sure Doherty was looking when Højbjerg played the ball, because he didn't know it was coming towards him.
No, he ended up just chasing his own pass then, didn't he, Højbjerg?
It's out for a Fulham throw, but the quick throw was a foolish one, really, from a Fulham perspective, because it gave possession to Højbjerg, but Fulham have won it back, and Lamina has it, escaping Kane's challenge, and indeed on Ndombele, who were trying to get the ball off him. Here is Aina. Up towards Maja, tried a neat flick which didn't come off. Højbjerg to Ndombele, just inside Fulham's half. Lovely weighted pass out towards Bale. Bale looking for Dele Alli, too much on that pass. Ali was progressing pretty quickly into the box, but Bale can't find it.
It was a another deep late run from Dele Alli, something that has been a bit of a feature in this game, but Tottenham really pressing Fulham very well, not allowing them any time on the ball. The moment Fulham have the ball, it goes into the front, it gets set back to the midfield. There's green shirts all around it, and Ndombele, Højbjerg snapping at the ball. Any loose balls, poor touches, they're straight on it. The moment they do, they're just finding Kane, and then it just goes from there. It's been impressive from Tottenham in the last 10 minutes or so.
And I think Spurs fans will be pleased with the energy that their team are showing tonight as well, because there is an intent to be on the front foot. They're
pressing really well, aren't they? The moment Fulham have it, they really are reacting well as a team. It's very well orchestrated and organised. You know, one player's going, not alone. They're getting backed up all the time by surrounding players.
And they have it, Spurs, in their back line with Alderweireld. They are leading Fulham by a goal to nil. It is being credited as a Tosin own goal, which put them in front. Sanchez back to Alderweireld with the blue boots on, and now Sanchez, who's got a white pair on this evening, crashes it forward right-footed and out of play for a Fulham goal kick.
Yeah, Tosin getting very close to Gareth Bale there, almost tussles him to the floor. Gareth Bale complaining to the linesman. He does get his arm across him, and Bale probably just gets half a yard the wrong side of Tosin, who's had a difficult first half, I'll have to say. It's been a real, almost an education for him. I think he's been such a strong part of this Fulham team over the past few months. Him and Anderson, their partnership's been excellent, but this match really is posing a lot of questions of him, mainly tactically and positionally. It's a very difficult game to play as a centre-back for Fulham.
Matt Upson with us on 5 Live tonight. In fact, Tosin's made more clearances than any other player in the Premier League this season, not just at Fulham, in the whole of the league. And here he is, the ex-Manchester City defender, gives it to Anderson.
That's how good he has done. And for Scott Parker to feel comfortable playing a back four just shows you how much he trusts his two centre-backs and how well they've played and how solid they've been for him.
Yeah, they have been the two regular centre-halves for a few months now, Anderson and Tosun for Fulham. Spurs have pinched it back inside their own half with Sanchez, who tried an extravagant back heel, which didn't work. It was intended to find Doherty, but Fulham telegraphed that situation. And the ball is cleared away by Areola off the top of Doherty's head into the feet of Lookman for Fulham. Now Loftus-Cheek, who is barged over by Dele Alli. It's a Fulham free kick.
Another example of the way the Spurs players are snapping into the tackle. When the ball turns over, they're not allowing any Fulham players time on the ball. Loftus-Cheek has a first touch, and there's two green shirts right around him, swarming all over him. Ali gives the foul away, but it's great pressure from Tottenham.
And that pressure has won them the ball back here again. Tottenham on the halfway line. It's gone to Kane, and Kane has sent it out towards Gareth Bale. We're inside the final 60 seconds of the first half now. Kane for Doherty on the overlap on the right. Doherty's cross has far too much on it, and it's out for a goal kick.
A lovely weighted pass from Harry Kane. Just sees Doherty's run on the overlap, rolls it straight into his stride. He doesn't need to break stride to cross it, and that is a really poor cross from Doherty. He's better than that. He's got more quality than this, especially being used to playing wing back, and he just gets it all wrong and clips the ball behind the goal.
Well, he's starting his first Premier League game since January the 28th, Matt Doherty, this evening, when he lined up against Liverpool. This is only his 13th Premier League appearance of the season.
It hasn't quite gone according to plan, has it? I mean, played so heavily as wing-back that then to come in as a right-back is a different position entirely. It's a really different requirement. I think he's finding his feet, but it hasn't been as solid as what he was hoping, and very much in the balance, this right-back position at Tottenham, as to who is the favoured #1 pick.
Well, Peter Banks, the fourth official, has electronic board in hand and indicates we will have 2 minutes at the end of this first half. And Fulham, who were bright for the opening 10 minutes, have rarely got into Tottenham Hotspur's penalty area since Spurs went ahead through that Tosun own goal after 19 minutes. Here's Son and Davis on this left side, and now Højbjerg, who is a holding midfielder but is in Son's role in the attacking left position at the moment. Son trying to clip it in, looking for Kane, headed away, and now Fulham break forward with Loftus-Cheek, and there was a lunge at him from Gareth Bale, which I think is going to warrant a yellow card from referee David Coote, and indeed he reaches into his pocket and flashes it in the direction of the Welsh international.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a tactical foul from Gareth Bale, and it was backed up by Ben Davies as well. Bale just didn't quite trip Loftus-Cheek. He was stumbling, and then Ben Davies came in and finished the job, but there was lots of space for him to drive into, so it's probably quite a good tactical foul from the Spurs player.
Well, we'll get clarification whether it was Bale or Davies that was booked for the challenge.
He didn't quite go down off the first tackle, did he? And then Ben Davies came in and finished the job.
I mean, arguably both were possibly worth cautions. Yeah. Anderson under pressure on the halfway line, the Fulham centre-half. He's right in front of the dugouts at the moment. He's trying to get himself out of a difficult situation, which he's done. Here is Lookman. Confirmation it was Bale who was booked for that tackle. Now Robinson breezes away from a couple of Spurs players, Anthony Robinson, and he's gone past Sanchez as well. He's pulled it back for Madja. Madja with his back to goal, lays it off for Lemina, and Lemina with his side foot blazes it over the top of Tottenham's crossbar.
Well, Robinson really does make this opportunity happen. It's a brilliant run from the Fulham left-back. Twists and turns, goes past Højbjerg, drops a shoulder, goes on the outside of Sanchez. He's got that lovely turn of pace. He cuts it back. Great touch from Madja, sets it for Lemina, and it's just an awful finish. Just needs to get over the top of the ball, Lemina, and keep it low. He blazes it about 10 feet over the crossbar. It was a great opportunity. Actually, the only opportunity I can remember Fulham really having to score.
And the last touch of the first half as well, because referee David Coote has blown his half-time whistle, and possibly Fulham's best opportunity in that first 45 minutes. They were good as well, Matt, in the opening 10, but everything in between has been about Tottenham.
It has. I mean, the moment Spurs got into their rhythm, their pressing's been excellent. The link-up play between Ali, Kane, Son, Bale has been really good, and Fulham have found it tough. The two centre-backs of Fulham have had a real difficult evening so far in terms of decision-making and tactically, and that chance at the end there for Fulham they've got to take those. I don't know how many more, or if they're going to get too many more chances in this game.
Remember, only a victory tonight will take Fulham out of the Premier League's bottom three. But at half-time at Craven Cottage, it is Fulham 0, Tottenham Hotspur 1.
And Matthew Upson, that was exactly the same with Fulham at the weekend against Crystal Palace. When they get chances, they have to take them, and they're not doing.
I think you could list a few more games as well, Chappers, couldn't you? Where they've been very, very good or had a really good chance and they haven't scored. And it would be awful to see them, end up getting relegated this season, having played as well as what they have done in the past few months, and not be able to finish the chances. It's a key ingredient, isn't it? You have to score when you get the opportunity, and Fulham just haven't done that well enough so far.
All right, thank you very much to both of you. Back for the second half in 15 minutes' time. Let's go to the Hawthorns next. Well, what do you know, John Southall?
Those days are gone. Do you not remember the 6-0 at Watford a couple of weeks ago? But it is, you're right. West Brom 0, Everton 0 at half-time. And you have to say West Brom have been the better side for much of the half. They've had a couple of good chances. Both of them fell to Diania. The first, a looping header with a brilliant save from Jordan Pickford. Full stretch to his right-hand side to save it with his trailing hand. And the second chance 8 yards out on the turn over the bar. Everton finally woke up 5 minutes before half-time. Richarlison on the left of the 6-yard box over the top, rustling the roof of the net. And then Calvert-Lewin, this was the best chance of the game so far, 14 yards out, unmarked, saved by the goalkeeper Sam Johnson with his legs. Made himself big. Good save from Johnston. Carlo Ancelotti spent much of the half at the edge of his technical area. That grim look on his face, his arms flailing around. I suspect he'll be having a few words at half-time. Remember, Everton could go fourth tonight with a win for a few hours at least. West Brom 0, Everton 0. Goals to come.
Five Live Sports Extra. If you want to listen to the second half of that game, 10-7, this is 5 Live. Jill Mackenzie has the news.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
A new survey suggests more than 40% of over 80s have admitted to breaking coronavirus restrictions since getting a vaccine dose. The Office for National Statistics spoke to more than 2,000 people aged over 80 in England. Our correspondent Charlotte Wright has been looking at the figures.
What I think is interesting is that 41% of over 80s who had been vaccinated in the last 3 weeks, so the last 3 weeks from mid-February, they said that they'd met with someone other than their support worker or household bubble or member of their household indoors during that time. So suggesting that, some of these people have been breaking the lockdown rules.
Scientists have identified 16 cases of another new variant of coronavirus in the UK. Public Health England says it's on their watch list, but they're not immediately concerned about it. The BBC understands the government's reportedly paid a settlement of £340,000 plus legal fees to a former senior civil servant. Sir Philip Rutnam resigned after accusing the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, of mounting a vicious briefing campaign against him. He said the campaign started after he tried to get the Home Secretary to change her behaviour. Ms Patel has denied claims of bullying. The Royal College of Nursing is warning there'll be a backlash if the government goes ahead with a planned 1% pay rise for NHS staff in England next year. The organisation says nurses should be getting 12.5% more. The Duke of Edinburgh has had a successful procedure for a pre-existing heart condition. Buckingham Palace said the Duke, who's 99, will stay in hospital for a number of days. The Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, has accused the government of using a £1 billion budget fund for struggling towns in England to favour Conservative seats. The Prime Minister said the money had been allocated objectively, and it was a basic electoral fact that there were a lot of Tory-represented towns. But the Labour Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, agreed with his party leader.
Ministers are sailing quite close to the wind here when you look at how these funds have been distributed. In our part of the world, people might struggle to see how North Yorkshire and Richmond is a tier 1 place for access to the Levelling Up Fund, whereas Salford is a tier 2 priority.
And Ian Brown has pulled out of a festival, saying he refuses to play events that accept proof of a COVID vaccination as a condition of entry. The former Stone Roses frontman was meant to headline the neighbourhood Weekender in Warrington in September.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live. Listen live on on digital, online, smart speaker, or the BBC Sounds app.
A look at your travel feed. The M56 westbound and 2 lanes are closed at Hale at junction 6. It's after an accident with the queues backing up to Manchester Airport. The M60, the latest, anti-clockwise, junction 12, and that's at the Eccles interchange. They're recovering the overturned lorry, so that's causing queues on the main carriageway back to junction 15 at the Swinton interchange near the M61. It's the exit slip at junction 12, anti-clockwise, which is closed. The M62 westbound, 22 to 21 at Milne Row, an accident in one of the lanes. The M6 in the West Midlands slow southbound, an accident south of Birmingham, junction 5 at Castle Bromwich. 2 lanes are closed, 6 miles of traffic is backing up. And the M1 in Northamptonshire southbound, 16 Daventry to 15A at Towcester, 2 lanes closed for another accident. Order Merchant, 5 Live Travel.
I'm Bella Mackey.
And I'm Greg James.
We realised that we didn't pay much attention at school, and so we've decided to do something about it.
Our new podcast is called Teach Me a Lesson.
Our lesson title for today is Are People Born Evil?
We've been searching for the most inspiring teachers in the UK.
And each week we're going to learn something fascinating from them.
What do RuPaul and Aristotle have in common?
And my initial answer would be like attitude.
Well, my initial answer would be bald. So come and learn some new stuff with us.
Teach Me a Lesson with Greg James and Bella Mackey.
Listen now on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sport with Mark Chapman.
Fulham 0, Tottenham 1 at half-time. Goalless at the Hawthorns between West Brom and Everton. That's on Sports Extra. At 8:15, we will bring you full commentary of Liverpool against Chelsea. England were bowled out for 205 on day one of the final test in India. Ben Stokes top scored with 55. The home side closed on 24 for 1. Here are Michael Vaughan and Jonathan Agnew.
First and foremost, the team. It's the team I would have picked. You know, in the circumstances and on the surface that England know they're going to play. It's a better wicket than we saw in the first Test match. But you know, let's be honest. How many overs of seam will we see in the Test match? Maybe 30, 35. You know, Jimmy Anderson, Ben Stokes. That's plenty for those two. And it's going to spin. So Joe Root, Don Best, Jack Leach. They're your 3 spinners, and you need runs, so you might as well pack your batting, and Don Lawrence came in and did nicely today. So I completely get the team selection. I just look at them and I just think they're a little bit too frantic. You know, Test match cricket is a game, particularly on day one when the pitch is playing pure. Just bat the day out. You know, don't gift them any wickets. Don't gift them any easy opportunities. You know, Dan Lawrence came and played great. He played some wonderful shots. Ollie Pope looked like he was getting in and playing nicely. But I still look and think, do I watch them and sit back and in my chair with a nice calmness, knowing that one of them will just play properly and just bat and just low risk cricket, 1s and 2s. You get a bad ball, you whack it for 4. And I don't watch them when they're up against quality and trust that they're going to play in a calm fashion. You know, I hear this expression, fearless. I want to play fearless cricket. We want to take the game to the opposition. Why not just play unfearless cricket and just bat and be calm?
Like Stokes did, actually.
Just play.
Until he missed that one. I mean, he was actually just playing absolutely just calmly and quietly, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he apparently, you know, I looked at his dismissal and it was quite a lazy defensive stroke, and he's had the illness over the last few days, so he may have been drained. You know, you're not too sure what's gone on there with Ben Stokes, but he played in a Test match way, and this Test match team for a couple of years has won some big games and played against some decent teams, not great. And in this series so far, against better bowling, they've been exposed. But in this occasion, there's no one that can look me in the eye and say, wait a minute, this England batting line, and they've packed the batting. There's no way in a million years, with that amount of talent, they shouldn't be able to bat the first day out on that kind of wicket against the attack that they were facing. And if the pitch deteriorates, Aggers, you know, it still doesn't take away from the fact that England should have still got 350, 400 in the conditions that they were asked. So they've got to be ruthless with themselves, because the only way that England win in Australia is by getting big first innings scores. If they come out and bat like they have done in the last few weeks and just get very average first innings scores, they're going to get blown away in the Ashes, and that's a mentality side of the game that they need to get right.
More reaction on the TMS podcast, which is on BBC Sounds. Glasgow and Dublin are at growing risk of being cut from the list of hosts for this summer's European Championships. They're yet to provide assurances to UEFA about whether their matches will be able to have fans. The Wales scrum half, Kieran Hardy's been ruled out of the rest of the Six Nations after damaging a hamstring in the Triple Crown win against England. Mick McCarthy signed a 2-year extension as Cardiff manager. Rory McIlroy's had a good start to the Arnold Palmer Invitational Golf at Bay Hill. Ian Carter.
Yeah, much more like it, Mark, from Rory McIlroy, who hasn't won for 15 months and ended a long barren run with a victory in this event at Bay Hill back in 2018. Rounding a 6-under par 66. He's leading in the first round. He had a real purple patch from the second hole, which was his 11th. He holed a near 60-footer there. That heralded a run of 5 birdies in a row. He's leading by 1 from Bryson DeChambeau, but the defending champion Tyrrell Hatton had a horrible 77 in his first round.
Thanks, Ian. The new episode of that Peter Crouch podcast is available now on BBC Sounds. This one is that Entourage episode and what happened when Peter was in a nightclub and Mario Balotelli turned up.
I was in there one night after a game and it was quite quiet. And then he came in, and I'm not joking, it was like you couldn't move. And I was thinking, whoa, this has got busy all of a sudden. And then he left about half an hour later and it just went dead again. That wave of people that came in was actually his entourage. I was literally the people with him.
Amazing.
Which was crazy, you know. I mean, how you pick up that many people. And I was thinking, like, a lot of these people were Mancunians and people that I sort of half knew from being out and about. I was thinking, you know, they can't be his mates, like, straight away.
So that night in the Samrat, Chris, we met Crouchy's mates, and Chris, I met some of your boys as well. You can tell a lot about someone by their mates. So poor old Mario there, I almost feel a bit sorry for him because he's obviously a bit lonely there in Audley Edge, and he's a long way from home. It's not working out brilliantly for him at City. And then he's got all these people hanging around him and they're not really his mates.
Yeah, but as Crouchy says, he's in a quiet club, right? Now, Balotelli, he's never in a situation where he's on a dead night. It's quite a clever way of always ensuring that the place is bouncing, you know? I'm wondering what he does here. I mean, if whose job is that? Is that an agent's job now, or is it a player liaison officer? Like, who organises the minibus of Mancunians to arrive at the nightclub?
That Peter Crouch podcast available now on BBC Sounds. We'll be back at Craven Cottage shortly. Then at 8:15, we're at Anfield, Liverpool against Chelsea with Chris Sutton. And first of all, our correspondent, John Murray.
Good evening, Mark. First thing I'm going to tell you this evening is that we've got a change of referee for this match tonight. It was due to be Craig Pawson, but it is being reported, and we've heard from down on the pitch side as well, that he has been stood down and that Martin Atkinson has been drafted in to referee the match. And that is because, as I say, the reports say that Craig Pawson has had some contact with someone who's tested positive for COVID while he was travelling. So Martin Atkinson is going to be the referee tonight.
Okay, I hope this game provides more excitement than us having to discuss a change of referee.
Well, it's new news, so I thought you'd want to know.
Here's the standard question here. Who's this game more important for in the battle for the top four, which nobody apparently in the race to the top four seems to want to be in at the moment?
Is that for me, or you?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, well,
good evening, Mark.
Yeah, good evening, Chris.
Yeah, it's important for both, isn't it? Of course it is. The race for the Champions League spot. But there is the added spice, isn't there? Tuchel against Klopp, both managed the same clubs. Liverpool, their home form has been absolutely wretched. But a win tonight, and you would feel that they are back on track. Chelsea unbeaten under Tuchel. But that would be a bit of a statement maker, I think, if they came to Anfield and won.
Do you think they can?
Yes.
On what you've seen so far of them under Tuchel? I mean, they had a favourable start to his managerial tenure.
Yep, I think that's right. They have had a favourable start, a gentle run of games, albeit, I think that was a better victory than they got credit for in the Champions League against Atletico Madrid. But, I mean, they are still a bit of a work in progress. I'm not so sure Thomas Tuchel knows his best 11 yet, but nothing would surprise me here tonight. Anything could happen. This could be any result. I think that both teams, they're going to go for it. They both want to make a statement this evening. I've just got a sneaking feeling that Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool may come out on top.
Okay. Assistant ref still the same for tonight, John?
I think they will be, yes,
good,
Mark.
Good.
But what I can
Just
tell
checking.
you is that this will be of more interest to you, I think, that Liverpool have said that Diego Jota will be in the squad tonight, so he will be involved tonight. So that's important for Liverpool. You would suspect that it would be most likely that he would be on the bench, but seemingly he will be part of it tonight.
Back to John and Chris later. They're underway at Craven Cottage. Matthew Upson and Chris Wise.
Thank you, chappers. Yeah, Fulham 0, Tottenham 1 is the scoreline at the start of the second half. I'll run through the two teams for you in just a moment. There doesn't look like there's been any changes at the break for either team. Fulham shooting towards the Putney end, so from right to left in this second half as we look at it. And they have the ball at the moment in their back line with Joachim Andersen. And for Spurs tonight, who are leading Fulham by a goal to nil. They begin the night talking of the top four and Liverpool and Chelsea. They're 6 points, Spurs, off the top four. They wouldn't move up the table with a win this evening, but it would take them a point behind Liverpool in 6th and 2 behind Chelsea in 5th, ahead of that match on Merseyside tonight, which of course we'll have live later on 5 Live and on BBC Sounds, as Spurs win themselves a free kick on the halfway line. Matt Upson, part of our commentary team this evening here at Craven Cottage. And Fulham are just going to hope, I guess, Matt, that they can find the same buzz at the start of the second half that they had at the beginning of the first.
Yeah, I think they need that buzz, but they also need, you know, to be a bit more productive with the ball as well, and look at the likes of Loftus-Cheek, Lookman, to really try and make something happen. I think the most industrious player's probably been Robinson at left-back, who's been up and down brilliantly, created one really good opportunity towards the end of the first half, but I'm sure Scott Parker will be wanting more from his attacking 3 or attacking 4 players.
Second half is 2 minutes old. Fulham 0, Spurs 1. So while Tottenham move the ball around in their back line, let me just give you the team news for Fulham. They made 3 changes tonight. Areola's in goal. Aina, Anderson, Tosin and Robinson are the 4 defenders. Lamina and Reed in midfield. Cavallero, Loftus-Cheek, Lookman and Maja leading the Fulham front line. For Spurs, Lloris in goal. Mourinho changed his fullbacks tonight, so Doherty and Davis are both in, with Sanchez and Alderweireld as the 2 centre-halves. Højbjerg and Ndombele as the defensive midfielders. Bale, Dele Alli and Son Heung-min, with Harry Kane up front for Tottenham. And they are in their strip of green with the black shorts, and they are, at the moment, having to deal with a ball from Fulham's back line towards their own back line, which Davinson Sanchez has hooked out of play on this left side for a Fulham throw, but they're inside Spurs' final third with an Anthony Robinson throw.
Yes, Robinson again, who played the ball forward into the space, made Sanchez turn and run, clear the ball out for a throw-in, which has got Fulham up the pitch.
Robinson got it into the feet of Loftus-Cheek. He's lost out to Bale. Bale's given it to Kane. Kane trying to slide it forward towards Son, and Son helping it on for Dele Alli, and covering well was Joachim Andersen, who had to keep a very close eye on Dele Alli's movements.
Yeah, again, Harry Kane's position really a conundrum for Tosin. Do I go tight? He kind of went and then decided to drop off, allowed Kane to turn, who then nearly slipped the ball into Dele Alli, who's been running beyond Kane really well, I have to say. I think he's looked at Lucas Moura at the weekend and saw how well he did against Burnley at those deep runs and going beyond Kane, and Dele Alli's done that pretty well this evening.
Away by Anderson on the edge of his penalty area. Back with Spurs and Ndombele on the left side with Son with a clever reverse pass looking for Dele Alli. There again to meet it is Anderson, who this time utilises the green turf to slide along it and clear it away for Fulham. Reed has given it to Lamina, who can progress a little bit with the ball before sending it to Robinson, and that's a very accurate pass actually to the Fulham left back, who is now up towards the edge of Tottenham's penalty area. Loftus-Cheek back with Lamina again, 10 yards outside Spurs box, who are leading Fulham 1-0 at the start of this second half. Now Lookman just too much on the pass from Robinson and running away for a Tottenham goal kick.
Yeah, a little bit too much on the pass, and just the angle was a little bit straight. Needed to be slightly more angled for Lookman, who backed away really well to keep on side. Just looking to get behind the right back of Tottenham at Doherty, and Sanchez was over this side as well. But Fulham started the second half quite well, you have to say. Spurs not in their rhythm yet, and there's definitely hope for Fulham.
They've only scored 8 home league goals this season, Fulham, which is fewer than anyone else in the Premier League. They failed to score in more than half of their matches at Craven Cottage so far this season. 2 victories here against Sheffield United and West Brom. They've picked up draws against Liverpool, Brighton, Southampton and West Ham.
A lot of draws, haven't they, Fulham? When you look at it, I think overall they've had 11 draws, haven't they? Which think how many of those they could have just turned into a win, the difference that would make.
Here is Aina skipping away from a couple of Tottenham challenges. The Final one was from Højbjerg, and it was a fair one on the Fulham right back. Fulham have it again with Harrison Reed. Now towards Robinson. On this left side is Lookman. A tidy flick round the corner. And then a foul on Loftus-Cheek by Dele Alli. And a Fulham free kick, which is inside Spurs' final third on this left.
Been fouled a lot this evening, Loftus-Cheek. Really getting in areas, and the Tottenham players are not allowing him any time. Ali has probably fouled him 2 or 3 times, kicks through the back of his leg, but the ball's wide of the 18-yard box. It's a good opportunity for Lookman. Caballero is over the ball. Harrison Reed just to put it in a dangerous area. Got some decent height in the team, Fulham. Loftus-Cheek, Anderson, Tosin's up there.
So Fulham 1-0 down at home to Spurs. Just over 6 minutes into the second half. It is Cavallero's right foot delicately helped in, and Anderson helped it on with his head, and Lloris with his right hand managed to get up and flick the ball over the top of the crossbar for a corner.
Yeah, it's a good save from Lloris. Some would say relatively simple, but he had to react. It's a flick on from Anderson. Does really well. That ball is just going under the crossbar. It's going to nestle in that far corner, and Lloris gets up and just gets a fingertip to it.
He actually had the bulk of Fulham's chances at Selhurst Park at the weekend, Joachim Andersen. He's still looking for his first Fulham goal. In comes the Fulham corner, and there again was a Fulham centre-half, this time in the form of Tosin, and his header is straight at Lloris.
Yeah, another comfortable header for Tosin, won it clearly, just couldn't quite get enough power and accuracy to trouble Lloris, so it goes straight into his hands, but decent header from Tosin, and Fulham showing that if they put the right delivery in the box, certainly dangerous of scoring from a set piece.
Well, they have been bright and bubbly at the start of this second period, just like Scott Parker would have wanted. Reed towards Lemina, helped into Tottenham's penalty area. Doherty a little unsure, threw ahead at it, but not convincing. Picked up by Lookman on the byline. Now Robinson, left-footed cross away by Ndombele, and then crashed away by Doherty. Second clearance a bit more convincing than the first for Spurs. Davis is grappling now with Cavallero on the far right-hand side, and Fulham have got themselves a throw, and they're keeping that pressure on Spurs.
Yeah, it's a similar start, isn't it, to the game? Whether or not Spurs will soon kick into their rhythm, all it needs is one little slick piece of play from Harry Kane or Ali or Son, Gareth Bale, to unlock something. But at the moment, Fulham, it's a really good reaction, good start to this second half.
This is a statistic that will have Tottenham fans biting their nails a little bit, which I'll give to you in a moment, as Loftus-Cheek looks for Madja. Madja this time is knocked off the ball fairly by Alderweireld, even though he felt he was fouled. Yeah, that statistic for Spurs. They have conceded twice the number of goals in the second half of Premier League matches this season than they have in first halves of games. And whatever Jose Mourinho says, it will be a number that he'll be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, it's concerning, isn't it, whether or not that's due to tiredness or lack of discipline. Certainly of the manager, that how Mourinho operates, that is not a statistic that he will be proud of.
Long ball forward looking for Son, stopped by Ola Aina. Out towards Cavallero, back with Aina again. Fast pace about this Fulham move as they work it from defence into attack, and then Lemina goes into his back line once more. 54 minutes played, Fulham 0, Spurs 1. Have we had the first goal of the evening yet at the Hawthorns? West Brom Everton, John Southall.
We haven't. West Brom 0, Everton 0, but 2 chances for West Brom. The first, Diagne with a header over from 6 yards out. The second, Conor Gallagher on the right of the 6-yard box, flashed a shot across goal. Any touch, it was in. West Brom 0, Everton 0.
That game's also live on Sports Extra tonight and via BBC Sounds, which you can find by searching for 5 Live Sports Extra. Fulham 0, Tottenham 1 here. A Tosin own goal in the first half, and we had a good look at that replay, Matt, and it was well, we were still unconvinced, but we didn't get the right angle really to see whether Ellie's effort was heading towards goal. Here's Son for Spurs, trying to feed it through for Bale. Cut out by Tosin and then away on the volley by Anderson.
No, I think once you do get the right angle, you can see that Dele Alli's flick with the outside of his right boot, while it looks like that sees the ball over the line, it clearly does touch Tosin on the way through, and I don't think Dele Alli did put enough on it to hit the target. I think it would have probably drifted wide had Tosin not touched it, so I understand why they've awarded that as an own goal.
So the statistic still stands that Dele Alli's last Premier League goal was on March the 7th last year against Burnley. Tottenham making a bit of a habit, by the way, of getting convincing wins against Sean Dyche's side, as they did at the weekend. Fulham throw halfway inside Spurs half on the left, which Cavallero will take. 10.5 minutes into the second half.
I mean, he'll be disappointed with that, Ali, because, you know, if it hadn't been an own goal, it obviously wouldn't have gone in, and it was a great goal-scoring position, and he should really get the right contact and finish that off himself.
Robinson's throw back to Tosun. Now with Anderson to Aina. A couple of touches before sending it forward, right-footed to Lemina on that far right-hand side, halfway inside Tottenham's half. He's scampered away from the attentions of Alderweireld and then lost his balance, and now Dele Alli has it for Spurs, and Bale is moving forward. Kane has it on the halfway line. He's looking to feed Bale. Well watched by Robinson. Cut it out well and takes it back off Reed, and now it's Fulham's turn to have a go at this Spurs defence. Robinson, low ball in, looking for Loftus-Cheek, didn't come to him, came to Madja, now back with Loftus-Cheek on the edge of Spurs penalty area. Worked out to the right side for Cavallero. Aina on the overlap. Cavallero's going the other way. Lookman starved of room, trying to evade the challenge of Bale. He's done that. And now Reed. And Reed towards Aina. Couple of touches. Time to find the cross. Aina sends it in off the head of Cavallero and up into the sky, where Lloris plucks it as it's dropping.
I'm not quite sure what Cavallero was thinking there. The ball came to him. I think he was caught in two minds whether to chest it or head it. He ended up doing neither particularly well and just headed the ball up in the air, and Lloris came and claimed it. But really good pressure from Fulham. Great energy from Robinson again on this left-hand side. He really has been a driving force for Fulham this evening.
Ivan Cavallero, of course, was the player that scored in the reverse fixture between these two teams back in January, and that very hastily arranged game in North London, which certainly didn't please Jose Mourinho too much, I don't think. Spurs 1, Fulham 1 was how it finished. Spurs had actually won 5 games in a row until that match too.
Well, it ended up being a decent night for Fulham, didn't it?
It did. Tottenham have got a free kick because Lookman has just showed a bit too much attention to Ndombele, and if that wasn't enough, Lemina was there for good measure as well to knock him over. Fulham 0, Tottenham 1, and this Spurs free kick is going to be quickly taken by Bale, but David Coote wasn't happy about the position of Fulham's temporary wall. I don't think that they were the full 10 yards. It was Josh Madja, the player in question.
Well, he wasn't quick enough to get the line down, was he? I mean, if he wanted the 10 yards, he should have marked it out prior. There was plenty of time for the referee to kind of set that free kick up. Whether or not he was dealing with another issue, I'm not sure.
Well, he's certainly got the spray out now and put it on the ground. And Gareth Bale has put the ball down as if he's going to shoot from here, and he's got to be almost 40 yards out, Bale. But he is standing poised as if he's going to go for goal from the free kick, which he does, and it's straight into the wall from Gareth Bale. Matt Upson was up on his feet, expecting something spectacular.
I did just jump, and he lost my balance there, Chris. I thought we could be seeing something amazing, but it wasn't to be.
Here's Kane. Now we might see something special. Kane looking for Dele Alli. Areola's out, and Areola takes the ball just above the head of Dele Alli. Fulham 0, Tottenham 1. Let's get the team news from Anfield. Liverpool, Chelsea. John Murray.
Well, Alisson returns to play in goal for Liverpool for the first time after the recent death of his father. Fabinho is back in central defence. He replaces Phillips. And Jota finally returns as a substitute for Liverpool. Chelsea makes 3 changes from the weekend. Jorginho for Kovacic in midfield. James for Hudson-Odoi, who is on the bench, Hudson-Odoi. And Werner for Giroud. There's no Tammy Abraham. Thomas Tuchel said he had an ankle injury.
Thank you very much, John. John alongside Chris Sutton tonight for that game, which is live on 5 Live and on BBC Sounds from 8:15. Still West Brom 0, Everton 0. We'll be back with John Southall if there are any goals at the Hawthorns. And if West Brom can find a goal with Newcastle to come at the weekend, it could be a very significant week for Sam Allardyce's team. Suddenly they might be the ones who are eyeing up a very late, miraculous escape. Here's Lemina for Fulham on the edge of Tottenham's penalty area, looking for Loftus-Cheek, and Davinson Sanchez using just about enough of his physical frame to barge Loftus-Cheek out of the way.
I really see what Loftus-Cheek was trying to do. He tried to take his first touch in his stride and be positive with it. Unfortunately for him, Sanchez was aware of it and just manoeuvred his body into his and almost ushered him off the ball in the 18-yard box.
Fulham have it in their own penalty area with Tosun. They're going from right to left, Fulham, in their home strip of the white with the black shorts and the white socks. This is Maja with Alderweireld for company, but his trickery has worked well. He's got it out of his feet. He's given it to Loftus-Cheek. Now Lookman on the left side of the box, back with Loftus-Cheek, and Loftus-Cheek tried to whip it into the far corner and got too much whip on it. It's over the top for a goal kick.
Yeah, it never looked that comfortable at shooting. I think he would preferred a different option, but it just opened up for him, so he thought, why not? Lookman passes it back inside to him. He shifts it onto his right foot. It's that classic kind of angle of just going across the goal, leaning back a little bit. The ball goes really high and wide. Just as I have a look at the replay of his first touch, he just touches it into Sanchez in the box. It was a really good opportunity for Loftus-Cheek. If he could just let it maybe roll across his body onto his left foot, tried to go round Sanchez, and instead of straight through him, he might have had more joy.
Just has the one Fulham goal so far, Loftus-Cheek against Everton back in November. Here's Lemina, here come Fulham again with Caballero, back for Lemina, and stopped by Lloris. At his near post, the French goalkeeper got something on it to deny Mario Lemina from very short range. Fulham are getting better here. This is Maja, and he can't find Lemina, but Tottenham have made a mess of the clearance, and Maja has scored from the edge of the penalty area. He was on the floor when he hit it, Josh Maja, but he's managed to hook it into the bottom corner, beating Lloris to his left, and Fulham are level in the London derby. Fulham 1, Spurs 1.
Well, they've really deserved this goal, Fulham, from the start of the second half. It has to be said, Spurs haven't got to grips with the game, and it's been all Fulham, probing all the time. Nearly scored just before this with a really nice move from the right, but it really does land at the feet of Davinson Sanchez, who makes an awful clearance of the ball. It's on his right foot. He gets no height or distance on it. He doesn't dig it out from underneath, but nevertheless, Maja, he has a little bit to do with this. He shifts it onto his left foot and drags it into that near post. It's a very good finish, instinctive finish, something that Fulham really have lacked this season in that position. And Maja's certainly brought some goals to this team, with 2 at Everton and 1 again here. It's been a really important few goals, and it's a really smart finish from him.
Well, now, unfortunately for Fulham, there is a check to see whether there was a possible handball by Mario Lemina in the build-up to that. Sanchez's clearance hit Lemina on the arm, came back to Maja, and there is a check of the VAR, and the decision is no goal, and the Fulham goal has been ruled out for a handball by Mario Lemina. Sanchez's clearance from close range, hitting Lemina on the lower part of his left arm before it fell to Maja, who scored, and it's still Fulham 0, Spurs 1. Matt Upson, what do you make of that?
Well, it's just another VAR handball ruling that I look at and I just question. I just think, I don't know what Lemina is supposed to do. Davinson Sanchez makes a hash of the clearance. He smashes it at him from 5 yards away. His arm is down by his side. His arm is actually in front of his leg, in his body. The ball hits his arm. After that, he pops his arm out, but it's after the ball's hit him. So I don't know what Lemina's supposed to do there. Are you supposed to just dive out the way of the ball? I have no clue. I see these decisions all the time, week in, week out, and I have to feel for Fulham. I think it's a really disappointing decision for them.
When Sanchez has cleared that ball, he has got to be, Lemina, 3 yards away from him.
How do you get out of the way?
And I guess the main point to make is that Lemina's arm is down by his side.
In front of his body. So it's right in front of his body. So if his arm isn't there, it would just hit him in the midriff or at the top of his thigh. Okay? So how is that any kind of handball that's actually affected the game in any way? It isn't. So I think that's a poor decision, and I feel for Fulham in that sense.
Right, we'll stick it in the back catalogue, because that's another one. Looks like there's a legitimate goal, though, at the Hawthorns. West Brom Everton, John Southall.
And it's an important goal for Everton. West Brom 0, Everton 1. Sigurdsson on as a substitute with a corner on the left-hand side. It came back out to him. He floated in the cross, and there was Richarlison 4 yards out to head in. 4 from 4 from him, and Everton heading fourth. West Brom 0, Everton 1.
And that could be a very significant goal as well for West Brom's hopes of staying in the Premier League. Amongst the chaos, by the way, Fulham have made a change. They've taken Loftus-Cheek off, and they have brought Frank Anguissa on, the Cameroonian international, who actually made his Premier League debut against Spurs at Wembley 2.5 years ago. And Fulham have got themselves a corner, and they are now looking to have an impact again on Lloris's goal, having felt that they have been harshly treated by the decision to rule Josh Maja's strike out. Corner from this left-hand side. We're moving up towards the midway point in the second half. Fulham 0, Spurs 1, in by Cavallero into the near post. And they will have a chance to do the same again because Davis got there in front of Maja. It's another Fulham corner.
You know, Maja wasn't to know about the handball. He did not finish that well, didn't he? Got it onto his left foot. It's a clever finish, dragged it into that near post and really took Lloris by surprise.
Another Cavallero corner, this time sent in towards Bale, who was occupying that near post again to head away. Retrieved on the far right-hand side by Anguissa, who is very noticeable because of the colour of his boots, which are a striking red, into Spurs penalty area, where again Bale is needed to clear it away with his head, and then Tosun trying to feed it through for Lookman on the left, and is a little unfortunate because he was playing that ball right through the eye of the needle.
Yeah, it had to be hit with pace, otherwise he wouldn't have got it past Gareth Bale, so he put plenty of pace on it, and unfortunately Lookman just wasn't able to get a toe on it and control it. If he had, he was really bearing down on the Spurs goal.
Well, Tottenham are going to make at least one change here, though I think possibly two, because Dele Alli is trudging off towards the touchline on that far side, the opposite side to us. I'm trying to see who is coming on over there. Lucas Moura is one of them, and Moussa Sissoko the other.
Gareth Bale as well. He's just trudged off this side here, Chris, just on the near side. He's walking off and walking round.
So Ali and Bale off for Spurs, and Sissoko and Lucas Moura on. And Dele Alli will feel really unfortunate that he's departing the pitch at Craven Cottage without a Spurs goal tonight that he thought he had before it was taken away from him and credited to Tosun in the first half.
I think you have to give Ali credit for his performance tonight. I think he's not had a great run of late, but this performance for me, he's had plenty of energy. I think he's ran beyond Kane a lot. He's got in good areas of the pitch. His body language was good, and I thought he had a good game. So, you know, credit to him. He won't be happy to leave the field of play. You're absolutely right. You could tell that because I think he was enjoying himself and playing well.
We're into the 69th minute at Craven Cottage, with the floodlights beaming down onto the pitch, down by the Thames, and sat looking over at the brand new Riverside stand, which is Fulham are hoping will be ready for the start of next season. It's going to add an extra 4,000 to the capacity at Craven Cottage. And from the pictures as well, that it looks like it's going to be absolutely fabulous. Højbjerg penalised for a over-eager shove on Anguissa on this near left-hand side, so it will be a Fulham free kick just inside their own half. There was just a moment, Matt, where I thought that referee David Coote was going to allow Højbjerg to continue there, but you heard the shrill sound of the whistle. Here's Aina for Fulham, halfway inside Spurs half. They're trailing 1-0. Aina is trying to find a little bit of space for himself, has given it to Cavallero, a bit too much on it back to him. And Kane managed to get a boot in, so it will be a Fulham throw on the far right. Anderson takes it quickly. Here is Tosun. Now over towards this near left-hand side with Robinson, who runs away from the substitute Lucas, and still has the ball, Robinson. And now with Lookman, who's carried it towards the corner flag and then cut back in on himself. Back with Robinson again. Now Reed, a short pass infield towards Tosun. Tosun lifting it forward, looking for Cavallero. Very clever ball. Cavallero on the byline, now inside Spurs penalty area. Lifting it in, looking for Maja, and cleared away by Davis, but the flag was up anyway for offside.
Nice play from Fulham. Really nice on this left-hand side. Comes back out. They recycle it out to the right-hand side. Nice lofted ball from Tosun. Don't know whether it was Cavallero that was offside on the initial pass or not, but Fulham still really on the front foot, and Tottenham in this second half haven't had anywhere near the same control of the game, the same intensity of the pressing that they showed in the first half, and are under the cosh a little bit.
Well, Tottenham have only won more London derbies against West Ham than they have done against Fulham, who are making another change of their own with the introduction of Alexander Mitrovic, who is replacing Ivan Cavallero and has immediately gone into that central role, with Maja now occupying the role on the right-hand side. So the Serbian on to add to Fulham's front line in the final 20 minutes or so.
He certainly changes things, Mitrovic, just by his style of play. He's very much a focal point, and perhaps Fulham, looking at the amount of crosses they've put in this second half, they want somebody in the box just to get on the end of it.
In comes this one into Spurs' penalty area, dealt with well by Alderweireld. It's an up and under, but it's not outside of Tottenham's penalty area yet. Retrieved by Lookman. The short option for the pass is Robinson. In field towards Anguissa, lays it off first time to Reed, and back towards the halfway line for Tosun. Fulham have had a goal disallowed. They're trailing 1-0 against Spurs. Lovely pass again from Anderson to Robinson. Robinson's low ball in. This time away by Højbjerg, but Spurs are being pinned in at the moment inside their own half, Matt Upson.
Yeah, I mean, Tottenham can't get hold of the ball. It's very different from the first half. That Fulham are probing and very confident with the ball.
Delicate pass again by Anderson to Robinson. Robinson's cross, this time away by Sissoko as far as Anguissa. And now Reed, 15 yards outside Tottenham's penalty area, left of centre. Further left still is Robinson and Anguissa, and has options on that far right-hand side because Ola Aina's pushed forward to support this Fulham attack. Anderson, first time cross with whip towards Lookman. A touch onto his right foot, gets it under.
Højbjerg, Sissoko, Lucas has tucked in and quite narrow.
Whipped in by Aina, headed away by Højbjerg, who was occupying a space on the edge of his own penalty area. Up to the halfway line where Kane can't bring it under control, and it's back with Areola, the Fulham goalkeeper, who celebrated his 28th birthday last week. Here is Anderson, who is such an important player for Fulham to have in their defence, because he is capable of playing defence-splitting passes like someone who might be sitting in behind the forwards.
I think he's such a vocal part of that team as well, as a player that's come in and a loanee. I think he's been excellent for Fulham. Really, really good signing. I like him as a centre-back.
Every pass at the moment for Fulham is landing. In by Lookman. Awkward clearance away, up into the air and caught by Lloris. It was off Davis's head initially, and Lloris is barking instructions now to his Tottenham defence.
Yeah, Davies didn't want to head it out for a corner, did he? Didn't want to give the corner away, so he just opted at the back post to head it up in the air almost, hoping that Lloris would come and claim it, which he did. But Lloris saying to his players, we got to get up, we're so deep, we're just camped in on the edge of the 18-yard box and can't get hold of the ball or any kind of foothold in the game at the moment.
I can see Jose Mourinho in the dugout opposite us, patrolling around. He's got his hands in his pockets. He's currently getting some instructions from his backroom staff as well, with Spurs lining up another substitute, which looks like Eric Lamela from here, Matt.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, they've made, like I say, 2 substitutions. It really hasn't impacted the game at all yet, has it?
Well, Fulham just seem to be getting more and more on top of Spurs, as Davinson Sanchez, bit of miscommunication with Lloris. Didn't know that the goalkeeper was there and has cleared it out for a Fulham throw on the right.
Well, I'm not too sure why Lloris was coming, if I'm honest. It was just outside the 18-yard box. It was a straight pass, but Sanchez may have heard the call, but you always feel as a centre-back that if you can put your foot through it and you're not sure, then just do it. And he did that. He kicked the ball up in the air, gave the throw-in away, but just a little signal that Spurs are a bit rattled.
Well, Mourinho is making another change with Lamela on for Tanguy Ndombele. And Fulham have also decided to alter things as well, with Anthony Robinson off and Joe Bryan on, who has a bit of history himself, Joe Bryan, against Jose Mourinho. You might remember his goal against Mourinho's Manchester United in the League Cup a few years ago, which knocked them out at Ashton Gate. Here's Anguissa, little turn on the edge of Spurs penalty area, ball entangled in his feet, and then is deemed to have made a foul. That's why referee David Coote has blown his whistle, and Højbjerg at the moment rolling around on the floor, clutching his leg.
Yeah, it was just an entanglement of legs as Anguissa turned. I think his studs just went on top of Højbjerg's foot. Lucas Moura was in there as well, trying to win the ball back, but Højbjerg still laying in a heap on the floor. It was almost like a stamp from Anguissa. Not intentionally, he just kind of put his foot down to win the ball, and whether or not Højbjerg's just buying his teammates a bit of time, just killing the pace of the game. I think it's more that than anything. He's back up on his feet, but wants to try and reset the button for Tottenham and get them up the pitch and stop this wave of Fulham attack.
When he calls himself a Viking, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, it is his 39th appearance of the season, by the way, for Tottenham. He's the only outfield player to have played every minute of every Premier League game so far this season, so nothing is going to stand in his way, it seems.
No, I don't think he's going to go off with a stamp on the foot.
That's not what Vikings do.
No.
Here's Anderson for Fulham, who are still 1-0 down at home to Spurs, live on 5 Live and on BBC Sounds. Liverpool against Chelsea to come tonight from 8:15. West Brom Everton is available right now on Sports Extra and also on BBC Sounds. As Brian, under pressure, the Fulham left-back who's just come on, sent it out to play for a Spurs throw near right-hand side on the halfway line. Matt Doherty will take it. Scott Parker with his arms folded. Of course, former Spurs player Scott Parker actually played alongside Gareth Bale during his time with Tottenham. Amongst his 63 appearances in North London, and had a spell coaching their under-18s as well. Another Tottenham throw. They're working their way up on this right-hand side into the final 13 minutes at Craven Cottage. Doherty in towards Lamela, who is struggling for room, and Fulham are going to play their way out. Anguissa's lost it though, and Højbjerg's going to send it back to Lloris. So let's pop back to the Hawthorns. West Brom Everton, John Southall.
11 minutes to play. West Brom 0, Everton 1. Everton just beginning to gain some control now. Dominic Calvert-Lewin with a shot over the bar from 12 yards out, and you have to say the appearance of Allen and Sigurdsson, the two subs, have made a real difference for Everton. West Brom 0, Everton 1.
And Fulham 0, Tottenham Hotspur 1 here at Craven Cottage. Spurs throw on that far left-hand side, and Kane, even though he was being held on to, has managed to manipulate the ball, or at least the man, to win Tottenham another throw halfway inside Fulham's half, which they're in no hurry to take. And they just for now, Matt Upson, seem to have stemmed that little flow of pressure that Fulham were placing on them.
Yeah, I think, you know, the territory's changed. They've just won a corner with Aina flicking the ball in from a long throw, and it's not been pretty, has it? They've just applied the pressure, won some free kicks, slowed it down a little bit, and the territory's changed, so the point that they're now attacking a corner in Fulham's box. But overall, in the second half, we're not seeing anywhere near the same levels of quality that Tottenham showed in the first half.
Well, Son is over the corner and Harry Kane is inside the 6-yard box, but he's not the only one for Spurs. And it comes from Son. Moore has helped it on. It's half an appeal for a handball, though nothing with any conviction.
It's a dreadful corner, wouldn't it, from Son?
Wasn't it?
Yeah, really awful. Just looked like cuffed the ball into the ground and just bounced, nearly bounced twice before it hit the near post man.
There is still the possibility that we might see tonight Harry Kane and Son Heung-min combining for their 14th Premier League goal this season, which would move them ahead of Alan Shearer and Chris Sutton and their famous partnership for Blackburn back in 1994-95. If it isn't going to come tonight, you sense it's going to come at some point over the next few weeks.
They've got a few games to do it, haven't they?
Here's Lamela skipping past a few inside the box, got to the byline, tried to pull it back, and Harrison Reed put his foot on the ball before Tosun thumped it away for Fulham. Lamela was tiptoeing his way into Fulham's penalty area. And up on the halfway line, Lemina has gone in for a challenge with Davis. Spurs think they should have a free kick. Instead, it's a Fulham throw.
Well, I can only assume there was no contact. Really nice play from Lamela to get to the byline, rolling the ball with his studs, but Tosin just getting there and dealing with it. But just a moment ago, Lemina couldn't have touched Ben Davis. If he had, it was a clear foul, wasn't it? He really went to ground and didn't get anywhere near the ball.
What did you make of Gareth Bale's performance tonight? A lot of talk about him in recent days after his spectacular performances in the Europa League and against Burnley at the weekend.
Yeah, it wasn't as effective, but I can see the improvements for sure. I think you can look at him from a couple of months ago and see him now. He's definitely looks fitter, a bit sharper, a bit more confidence and trust in his body. So I think the more games, I can see why he started tonight, because it's more about creating that with Gareth Bale to get the best out of him, and if he can play and get minutes on the pitch, it's the best thing for him.
Tosun, cracking pass out to the far right-hand side. Aina's initial cross is blocked for Fulham. It's come back again, and then Lookman had a swipe at it. Didn't make firm connections with it. Did get something on it. Fulham still have it with Lamina, who's chipped it out towards Anguissa on this left-hand side, down by the corner flag, and Anguissa under pressure from Doherty was hoping to win a corner or a free kick. He's got neither. It's a goal kick.
Yeah, it was a poor choice. He had Bryant in support. He just got to roll it back for Bryant to whip it in first time with his left foot, which is what Bryant's saying to him now. Instead, he took the option to face up Doherty, and there just wasn't the space. He went to the left. He had about a yard and a half to work with until the goal line, and just ran the ball out of play. It was a poor choice from Anguissa.
Spurs goal kick, and Fulham have 8 minutes plus stoppage time to salvage this 5-game unbeaten record that they have built up. They haven't gone 6 Premier League matches, by the way, without defeat since Mark Hughes was in charge back in 2010, when he led them to 7 unbeaten games. That, of course, is in the Premier League. But they are threatening, and certainly Spurs are not going to be able to take their foot off the pedal in these final 8 minutes. They've had a goal disallowed tonight, Fulham, and there will be question marks over that. And they've got a throw because Lloris has cleared the ball out on this near left-hand side, and Lookman has taken it quickly to Brian, who had time to weigh up his cross, and then Lucas Moura got over to make a block, and it's another Fulham throw.
Yeah, I think we get into that time in the game where with Mitrovic on the pitch as a Fulham player, I think you just want to get the ball in the box and see what happens. It might drop down, he might win the initial one, whatever it may be, but try and make Spurs feel uncomfortable. They're having a lot of possession in and around the outside of the box, but get it in the box with Mitrovic in there.
Anderson does that and was looking for Mitrovic as well, but Davinson Sanchez clears it away. Forward again by Reed, away again by Sanchez. Lucas with a deft touch, but out of the reach of Harry Kane, allowed Lamina to get there, and then Anderson has clattered the ball into his own man, Lamina, from short range. And now Spurs with the opportunity possibly to break, and they're doing it very quickly. They've got the ball towards Kane, and Kane is denied by Areola. Outstretched right hand from the Fulham goalkeeper to stop Harry Kane after a swift move teed up by Lamina, but Kane stopped.
What a great save from Areola. Comes out, stays really big. It's a mistake from Anderson, tries to hit a crossfield pass, but that's a fabulous save from the Fulham goalkeeper. Harry Kane is in. It's a slip ball from Lamela. He's on the stretch, and he just comes out and stays big, throws himself in front of the ball. Excellent save.
Are you a player of the Fantasy Premier League game?
I am not.
You're not?
Afraid, no. Anything you say on that would be lost on me.
Well, all I will say is that Harry Kane triple captain. That's all I'll say, which won't mean anything to you, but no. I'm sure there'll be one or two that will also be feeling the same after that missed Harry Kane opportunity, including Ali Bruce Ball, I'm sure, because he too, I believe, has triple captained Harry Kane this week. Hear more about that, as usual, on the weekly Fantasy 606 podcast, which is available via BBC Sounds.
He's missed a couple this evening, hasn't he? The first half, the header.
You're telling me. I've been keeping notes of this.
Triple captain. No, he's not looked after you this game.
He hasn't. So you know all the lingo, don't you?
He's normally reliable, though, let's face it. That's why everyone tries to have him in their team now.
Spot on. Matt Upson with us tonight on 5 Live, and Fulham are still 1-0 down at home to Spurs as Sanchez clears it away. It was an early goal really now for Tottenham inside the opening 20 minutes. An own goal from Tosun. Dele Alli's touch deviating off the Fulham defender from inside his own 6-yard box. But there is a big, as Fulham prepare to take this throw on this near left-hand side, there is a big moment in this game, isn't there? A big talking point with that controversial disallowed goal for Fulham.
Huge talking point, in my opinion, and a really contentious one. I don't agree with the decision. I don't think they've arrived at the right decision, because I don't know what he's supposed to do in that situation, Lamina, and I don't think his arm was deviated away from his body at all.
Here's Anguissa for Fulham, edge of Spurs penalty area, pulled back by Lookman, and Lloris on the stretch manages to leap on top of the ball and then pull it into his close grasp.
That's where you want Mitrovic on the move. It's my one big problem with Mitrovic. He doesn't move in the box enough. As it's wide, he's just staying in the middle of the goal. He's making life easy for Alderweireld to mark him. He's got to try and get across the face of the centre-back and across the goalkeeper into that near-post space. If he does, he's got to tap in there, and it's just a lack of movement in that box from Fulham.
Hasn't scored in any of his last 20 matches, Alexander Mitrovic, and when you think how prolific he was for Fulham in times gone by, he has really lost his way, lost his place in the team as well.
It's that sharpness and mobility that he's not showing for me at the moment, especially in those situations in the box where you need him to be alive and on the move.
Fulham still knocking on the door, a ball trying to find Maggio, which is out of his reach, under pressure from Alderweireld. It's a Tottenham goal kick. In the final 4 minutes, they're losing 1-0 Fulham. Have they got the quality from here to find what would be a very big point for them? It wouldn't necessarily be the result they wanted, but from here I think they take a point.
Oh, it'd be a huge result really when looking at it against a very good Spurs team. But the answer to the question is, have they had the quality? No, they haven't so far. Okay, they put the ball in the back of the net, which was a piece of quality from Maggio, in fairness, and it's unfortunate that the goal that didn't stand.
Well, we're in the final 5 minutes here, and John Southall, I'm guessing that's the case at the Hawthorns as well.
Yeah, a bit less here, 2 minutes to play, 88 minutes on the clock. West Brom 0, Everton 1. It looks like Everton are going to see this one out. West Brom just pushing forward, trying to find that opportunity, but no cutting edge at the moment. And as it stands, Everton will move up to 4th in the Premier League for the time being. West Brom 0, Everton 1.
Here's Lamela for Spurs on the edge of Fulham's penalty area, stopped in his tracks by Harrison Reed, retrieved by Anguissa, given to Maggio, and Lucas Moura very quick to get back and win possession back for Spurs, and that will please his manager. But Fulham have worked hard to get it back themselves, and Lamina trying to work his way through Tottenham's midfield, pushes it out to the right-hand side. It's Mitrovic on that far right. Mitrovic's low ball in, it caused confusion, and it's nudged behind for a corner by Doherty on the stretch. Nearly an own goal by the Spurs fullback.
Well, I thought he was putting it into the corner of his own goal. Doherty at that back post position, Mitrovic drags the shot across the goal, and that's very close to that far post. It's actually pretty good defending, because I'm not sure if Doherty really knows what's behind him, which is why he's put the ball out of play. There was no Fulham player breathing down his neck, but he took the safety option, which I suppose is the right thing to do in that situation.
So a Fulham corner, 2 minutes to go, trailing 1-0. Lookman with it, Lloris commanding, comes out, catches it in front of a flurry of bodies.
Yeah, read the flight of the ball all the way, Lloris. It was a flat ball, it had no whip or curl on it, so it's probably always easier for goalkeepers to read the flight of a straight ball, and he did that very well, Lloris, and commanded his box.
So Lloris with ball in hand, and Spurs 90 seconds away plus stoppage time from picking up the 3 points here at Craven Cottage and moving themselves to within 3 points of the top 4 in the Premier League. This is Kane, who has carried the ball down towards that far left-hand corner, trying to buy a bit of time, but has given away a throw, and Fulham are going to move it quickly. Tosin. Bryan is an option to the left. Tosin's pass is nice and accurate. Bryan can take it in his stride. He's given it to Lookman, but Doherty immediately puts his arm in the air because he knew that Lookman had not quite timed that run right.
That's a pretty tight line from Tottenham, isn't it, to catch him offside there. Lookman just got ahead of himself. The space was there for Bryant to run into, and he actually passed the ball to him quite early. I'm not sure if Lookman was expecting the ball so early, which is why he drifted half a yard offside.
And Scott Parker is frantically chewing on his gum inside his technical area. He's got his hands in his pockets, and he is beginning to wonder, I'm sure, whether this game is drifting away from Fulham. I'm sure he will have one or two things to say post-match about the decision to disallow a goal for his side in the second half after Lamina's handball just prior to Maggio beating Lloris. This is Lucas Moura for Spurs, running down the right-hand side, all the way down towards the corner flag. Joe Bryan has gone with him, was just about fair enough in his challenge, Joe Bryan, so Fulham can bring it away. But Højbjerg very strong to nudge Harrison Reed out the way, and it's a Spurs throw.
Yeah, used his body well there, Højbjerg. Reed actually got the drop on him and nudged the ball past him, but Højbjerg just stepped across his path fairly, used his body and manoeuvred Harrison Reed out of the way.
So into 4 minutes of stoppage time. Fulham 0, Spurs 1. Remember, Liverpool and Chelsea to come tonight from 8:15 with John Murray and Chris Sutton, live on 5 Live and on BBC Sounds. Davinson Sanchez, who was down with a bit of cramp heading one forward just then, was struggling a little bit in his penalty area a couple of moments ago, was being tended to by some of his teammates. This is Sissoko, but he's lost the ball after taking it on his chest. It was won back by Lamina. Now Anderson trying to get things moving again for Fulham. Out towards Ola Aina, far right-hand side, but it has just gone out of play as Aina was trying to bring it under his control. And Tottenham have a throw 10 yards inside their own half. Fulham 0, Spurs 1 then is the scoreline at Craven Cottage. Remember, elsewhere tonight in the other 6 o'clock kickoff in the Premier League, it's still West Brom 0, Everton 1. We will go back to John Southall as soon as there is noises of a full-time whistle in the West Midlands. Fulham throw, Aina will take it 5 yards inside Spurs half on the far right. They've lost it though, and Harry Kane can turn and run at Fulham's back line, and he has options either side of him here. Lamela is to his right, it's towards Lamela, but Lamela has to just check his run slightly, and he's in no hurry to send it towards the 3 teammates inside the box. In fact, Lamela is trying to do it all himself by working his way past Fulham's defenders, and he's lost out to Harrison Reed, and Reed gives it back to Areola, who has to swiftly clear it away up towards the halfway line. Won by Doherty, out for a Fulham throw. Back to the Hawthorns we go. West Brom Everton, John Southall.
West Brom 0, Everton 1, but West Brom thought they'd claimed a point. Diagne finished into the top right-hand corner. VAR looked at it. He was offside. His left foot must have been his big toe. West Brom 0, Everton 1.
Looks like VAR is having an impact for both of the 2 teams who are playing tonight at 6 o'clock, who are in the Premier League's bottom 3.
Not a positive one, is it?
Doesn't seem so. Fulham throw, in it comes into Tottenham's penalty area, away by Alderweireld. 90 seconds left to play of stoppage time. Back out on that right again, driven in low, deflects to Højbjerg, manages to clear it away up towards the halfway line. Fulham need to do something with it now. We are moving towards the final 60 seconds. They are in pursuit of a late equaliser against their London rivals. Bryan, left-footed, deep towards the far post, headed away as far as Aina. Aina nods it down looking for Reed, and it's out by Son, and it's a Fulham throw on the right.
Yeah, even Tosin's gone up. He's in the 18-yard box. They're really throwing everything forwards at this now, Fulham.
4 minutes of stoppage time. We're in the last 60 seconds. In comes that Fulham throw, away again by Højbjerg, met by Sissoko with his head, and Harry Kane picks it up, and suddenly Kane has the chance if he wants to set Lamela away, but Kane is being a bit more patient with the ball. He's got Mora as an option as well on the far right-hand side. Kane has used all his experience, though, to coax a foul out of Harrison Reed, and Spurs have a free kick and possibly have the 3 points from here too.
Yeah, the way that Reed was flying back at Harry Kane, he didn't need a second invite to just dangle his leg in there, and Kane took the impact, went over, got the foul. Really experienced play from the Tottenham centre forward, and you just feel that that's Fulham's chance. Spurs are just going to see this out now as they're going to play the free kick short and just try and hold the ball up in the Fulham half.
Well, the 4 minutes of stoppage time are now up, so Scott Parker will be keeping an eye on David Coote, and Tottenham are not in any rush whatsoever, and it's infuriating Fulham that they haven't taken this free kick yet, which eventually Kane does, and it is the last touch of the game, and Tottenham have beaten Fulham by 1-0, scored in the first half, an own goal by Tosun after Dele Alli deviated it towards goal. But a big talking point in the second half, Matt Upson, with that disallowed goal for Fulham. Madger scored, but Lamina penalised for a handball after a VAR check.
Yes, it's a massive decision from the referee and VAR to call that a handball. I think it's very harsh on Fulham. You know, Spurs did a lot in the first half. In fairness to them, I thought they played some really slick football, pressed the ball really well, didn't allow Fulham any time on the ball and dominated that first half. But that wasn't the story in the second half. Fulham, with credit to them, came out, really had a go at Spurs, got on the front foot, got on top of Tottenham, got that goal, and It's been so interesting to see where the game went from them, but it was taken away and they huffed and puffed to the end, but just didn't have enough to get that goal.
Well, had Fulham won tonight, they would have got out of the Premier League's bottom 3, but as it stands, they're still in there. Fulham 18th, still on 23 points, but for Spurs, 3 points that moves them within 3 points of those Champions League places. It's finished at Craven Cottage. Fulham 0, Tottenham 1.
And we're in another situation, aren't we, both of you, Chris and Matt, where handball is again, or what is and what isn't handball is going to dominate post-match discussion again.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've seen it, Chappers, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me...
your point in commentary is exactly it. If it hadn't have hit his arm is by his side. If it was smacked at him, if it hadn't have hit his arm, it would have hit his thigh or his hip or his midriff or what, the side of his body. He and I know the rules are different depending on whether you're defending or whether you're attacking, but his hand didn't move towards the ball. It didn't make his body shape different. I mean, God, it makes me so tired.
The arm. That is exactly how you feel, though, isn't it? You kind of think, well, where do I go with this? What do you say about this? The ball doesn't go anywhere different to if his arm wasn't there. Firstly, he's 3 yards away, and Davinson Sanchez shanks his clearance. You've got no idea where the ball's going. It ends up firing at Lemina, and it just strikes his arm straight in front of his body. His arm is by his side, in front of the top of his thigh and his waist, and it hits his arm. It would have hit his midriff or like his hip area if his arm hadn't have been there, and the ball would have dropped down in the same spot. And you just look at it and say, why take that away from Fulham? I don't understand why you would want to take that goal away.
And actually, Chris, our hearts sink when we see it, because it's like, my God, here we go again. And the officials must think, oh my God, not again.
Completely.
Because they're being put in this position. It is not their fault. It is what they are being told to enforce.
And it's crazy as well, Chappers, because you begin to question yourself. You're watching the game and we're sat here and the goal goes in and you have a look at the replay and you see they're doing a VAR check. You look at Mario Lemina, you see that his hand is straight, his arm is straight, directly down by his side. I have to say, I looked at that initially and thought, well, this isn't going to be disallowed because there's nothing to suggest that that's going to be given as a handball. So it completely took me by surprise. And if we're watching games and we're thinking, well, is this handball or isn't it? And is this happening over and over and over again? And it's infuriating.
So I take it, Chappers, that decision was right according to the law. This is how lost I am with it. So we are saying that decision is right.
We're at a stage now where if it hits the hand in the build-up to a goal, is that right? Or was that the old one?
I thought it had to be. I thought it had to be more intentional than that. And I thought my take on it, and this is where I think it changes per referee or per game or per whatever it may be. Exactly, per week. I thought there had to be more intent of some kind, because that ball striking his arm, he cannot do anything about that, Lemina.
And Chappers, I think back to that incident a few weeks ago at St Mary's, I think it was, between Southampton and Aston Villa, and you had that crazy situation with Matty Cash, where his arm was out by his side, and it did strike his arm, and we all thought, well, that's got to be a penalty, and it wasn't. And tonight you look at it and think, well, that's not going to be disallowed, and it is. So,
but then Southampton played Wolves in the game, and Ryan Bertrand got done for one in the first half, but then Dendoncker didn't. Callum Hudson-Odoi on Sunday.
There's loads. The list goes on.
The good news is that a VAR decision didn't affect the game at the Hawthorns. Oh no, it did, John Southall.
Well, it did. It was West Brom 0, Everton 1, and the incident you're talking about was in the 92nd minute, and by Diania, really good finish into the top right-hand corner. The flag went up, VAR looked at it, and well, it was incredibly tight. It must have been his left foot, his left toe must have been offside, and the goal was disallowed. So you have to feel for West Brom. They showed plenty of endeavour tonight, but just didn't get over the line. Everton not at their best, but this was a priceless win for them. Their second time in 4 days that Richarlison has been the match winner. It came on 65 minutes, Gylfi Sigurdsson on as a substitute. His first touch was to send in a corner. It came back out to him on the left-hand side, and is on his second attempt. He picked out Richarlison 4 yards out, and he headed in. 4 goals in 4 games for him. As I say, They gave it everything, West Brom. Diagne had a header from 6 yards over the bar. That was the best chance in the second half. Then we had the disallowed goal really late on in the game, and you have to say it is looking pretty bleak for them. 9 points from safety they are, with 11 to play. Newcastle are here next. For Everton, this their 9th away win in the league, and that equals their Premier League record in a season. And they tonight are up to 4th for now. West Brom 0, Everton 1.
And they were good value for that win. The substitutions made the difference in that second half.
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah.
Alan, of course, always makes a big difference when he comes onto the pitch, and Gylfi Sigurdsson with the delivery for the goal, and he brings that quality as well. So I think West Brom would say they probably deserved a point tonight. Everton won't care. They weren't at their best, but yeah, definitely the second half substitutes made a difference for them.
OK, John, thank you. We'll bring you reaction from that game throughout the evening, also on the Football Daily pod, similarly with reaction from both Tottenham and Fulham after Tottenham's 1-0 win. The Five Live Sport production team, Matt, have the handball laws ready just to copy and paste into any document at any time, every day of the week. Handball, if immediately after touching the ball with the arm, even accidentally, the player scores a goal or creates a goal-scoring opportunity. So there's your. That's my point. The referees are in a. That's what they have to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I was having a quick chat with Chris Kawamia, who's here, who's assessing referees at the moment, and he made exactly that point to me as well, Chappers, that the referees have to follow the rules.
Yeah. Thank you. More from Matt on the Football Daily as well. We discussed the plight of the referees on the Monday Night Club. You can watch that on the iPlayer, or you can listen to it as part of the Football Daily podcast via BBC Sounds. We'll build up to Liverpool-Chelsea next here on 5 Live.
The voice of the UK. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
BBC News at 8 o'clock. This is Tom Harrigan. The Royal College of Nursing says the government can expect a backlash if it goes ahead with a proposed 1% pay rise for NHS staff in England next year. The recommendation was submitted to the pay review body for the health service. The Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, is unimpressed.
I think a lot of people would be pretty astonished to know that the day-to-day funding for the NHS is being cut in yesterday's budget. Hidden in that budget was that cut. We're not through the pandemic yet. And of course, what's coming next is the backlog of cases. 4.5 million people on waiting lists, understandably not been dealt with in the last year. Most people are pretty astonished that the funding is being cut.
Ministers have settled with the former senior civil servant Sir Philip Rutnam over his claim for constructive dismissal. Sources close to him have told the BBC that he received £340,000 plus legal costs. Sir Philip quit amid bullying claims against the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, which she denies. The UK government has unilaterally delayed checks on parcels coming into Northern Ireland from Great Britain. It comes a day after new post-Brexit checks on some foods were postponed, a move the EU said was illegal. The UK has been found guilty by the European Court of Justice of systematically and persistently breaching air pollution limits. Britain has left the jurisdiction of the court but has agreed to respect its judgments in cases that began before Brexit. The government believes the judgment is unfair. More from our environment analyst, Roger Harrabin.
The UK since 2010 has been in regular breach of standards set by the EU in terms of NO2 pollution, toxic gas which comes from home boilers and also particularly from cars, and particularly affects people around busy roads. So the pressure is on the government again to come up with results on this issue.
The security services say 3 terror attacks have been prevented in the UK since the coronavirus pandemic began. The Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, said young people had been recruited to terror groups in worrying numbers during the lockdowns. The United States has suspended import tariffs on British whiskey, clothing and textiles that were imposed under Donald Trump. He wanted to retaliate over subsidies given to the European aircraft maker Airbus. Simon Cotton, who runs a knitwear and textile supplier in Speyside, welcomes the removal of the tariffs.
We decided to absorb the tariffs, so we've been taking a 25% hit on every knitwear product we sell into the US. We're facing multiple costs to the business at the moment and many, many challenges. So it's great news to have one of those removed.
An unknown number of young crocodiles are being hunted after they escaped from a breeding farm in South Africa. Some 27 reptiles have been recaptured, but officials don't know how many more they need to find. And the weather, there'll be patchy rain in Wales and the south of England this evening. Much of the UK staying dry overnight, though, with a mixture of cloud and clear spells. BBC News, it's 8 minutes.
The voice of the UK. Coming up this March on 5 Live and 5 Live Sports Extra. The Six Nations champions will be crowned.
The try scorer 4 times last year is in again.
The Formula One season kicks off in Bahrain.
The man from Stevenage becomes the most successful Formula One driver of all time.
The Cheltenham Festival returns.
Albert Photo defends his championship with a heroic win.
And the football continues with live commentaries from the Premier League and Champions League.
Sterling is up to head it in. Marcus Rashford with a flash of brilliance.
This March on 5 Live and 5 Live Sports Extra. This is 5 Live Sport with Mark Chapman.
Already this evening in the Premier League, Fulham 0, Tottenham 1 and West Brom 0, Everton 1. It means the top of the table. Or the race for the top 4. I might as well include Manchester City as well. Right, here's the top of the table. Manchester City 65 from 27. Manchester United 51 from 27. Leicester 50 from 27. Everton 46 from 26. West Ham 45 from 26. Chelsea 44 from 26. Liverpool 43 from 26. And Tottenham 42 from 26. So a win for either Chelsea or Liverpool this evening, and they would go into the top 4. John Murray is at Anfield.
With team news, which is that Liverpool have Alisson back in goal. So this is the first time that he's played since the awful death of his father back in Brazil. So Alisson returns to the team. At the back, Alexander-Arnold. Fabinho returns alongside Ozan Kabak in central defence. Robertson at left back. Midfield, Wijnaldum, Thiago and Jones, Salah, Firmino and Mane. Diogo Jota is among the Liverpool substitutes as he comes back. And the Chelsea team tonight, Mendy in goal. The 3 central defenders we're familiar with now under Tuchel: Azpilicueta, Christensen and Rudiger. James on the right, Chilwell on the left. It's Jorginho and Kante in midfield this evening. Kovacic on the bench. Then Ziyech, Mount and Timo Werner through the middle. Giroud on the bench. Tammy Abraham not involved. Hudson-Odoi is among the subs.
Chris Sutton alongside John Murray. How much of a difference will it be for Liverpool to have Fabinho back in that back 4? I mean, admittedly, they don't want him in that back 4 long term, but at least they've got him back.
Yeah, a bit of experience in the back line, of course. Jurgen Klopp would prefer to play him in a midfield position, but needs must. And I think it's a welcome return. Hopefully he'll stabilise that back line. It's so important that Liverpool get back to winning ways at home. When you see the results from earlier on this evening, Everton leapfrogging Liverpool, the pressure's really on. This feels like a pivotal game for both teams.
Although equally then both could settle for a draw.
Well, that's what the others would like. The others would take that.
Well, that's what quite a lot of the others are doing quite a lot of the time. I mean, I know both Tottenham and Everton won today, but, they're all stumbling at some point, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Liverpool need to build momentum again. They haven't had momentum for a while. It was a decent victory away at Sheffield United. I think Chelsea have been steady under Thomas Tuchel. They haven't been a free-scoring Chelsea by any means, but they've got the job done, not conceded many goals. If you're a Chelsea fan, though, don't you want the Chelsea season to really burst into life? And if they, inflicted a heavy defeat on Liverpool this evening, then you feel that they would be getting there.
Is this, when you look at this Chelsea side then, is this still Thomas Tuchel trying to work out what his best 11 is?
I think so. He has liked to chop and change. It's interesting, isn't it, since he came in and took over from Frank Lampard, players who he brought in from the cold. Rudiger, I have to say I was surprised Frank actually discarded him earlier on in the season. I thought he was Chelsea's best centre-back last season. Alonso coming back in. When you look at the forward line, they haven't been, as I said, they haven't been free scoring. Chelsea is still not sure about his centre forward, is he? Tammy Abraham Giroud, Timo Werner starts tonight. So still looks like he's not made his mind up on what his starting 11 is. What we do know is that Chelsea do have a very strong squad, though.
Let's hear from Thomas Tuchel, unbeaten in his first 9 then as Chelsea manager in all competitions.
We have all the right to be confident, and we played now with Atletico Madrid and with Man United. 2 big opponents. We had 2 good performances. We are absolutely able to compete on that level, super close games, and we are always ready to win these games. And this is why we are here, to create that spirit and to bring out that talent and that quality. And the team is doing that. And these are strange times, and the results are a bit strange in terms of Corona and no spectators. So it has an effect clearly on the results, and everybody is suffering in the same way. For me, the 2 teams are still the benchmark. Liverpool, of course, and Manchester City, they are the benchmark, and we want to close the gap. And the gap is not too big that we cannot close it within months and weeks and months, and this is the target. So this week brings it up quite to the highest level you can imagine, with Man U, Liverpool and Everton in the race for Champions League, and of course in the race for the top 4. For my opinion, this race will go on until just the end of the 12 games we have to play. But with a very important fixture, we have the chance to keep them on distance, and this is what we're up for.
It's impossible not to compare him and Klopp, isn't it, John? You know, nationality. In fact, obviously they were both at Borussia Dortmund. Tuchel taking over from Klopp. You can't help but compare the 2.
No, you can't. But I think quite different philosophies, really. And I know it's still very early days for Tuchel at Chelsea, but we've seen, you know, when Jurgen Klopp stamped his influence on this Liverpool team, you know, it was all cut and thrust, wasn't it? Whereas the Chelsea that we've seen so far has been extremely well organised, well drilled, and you know, they've scored in the unbeaten start that he's made in his 9 matches so far, conceded only 2 goals, but they've scored only 10 goals in 9 matches, and 3 of those were penalties. And it's the creation, but more the scoring of opportunities that's the issue. But listen, you know, it's a very solid base to come from.
And they're well drilled, Chris, as John says. And also, if you don't do what he says, he's going to hook you.
He doesn't mess about. He hasn't messed about, has he? And you know, he's publicly called out Callum Hudson-Odoi and Tammy Abraham already. I have to say, I don't agree with this perception of Jurgen Klopp just being a motivator, though, and that's all he is at Liverpool. I think that I actually think it aggravates him, and you know, Tuchel is seen as this master tactician. If you look at both their records at Mainz and Dortmund, Klopp has actually Klopp got Mainz up. Tuchel didn't. Klopp's actually won the Bundesliga at Dortmund. Klopp's actually won a Premier League. Klopp has won the Champions League. I don't think we can, you know, necessarily compare the 2. Oh, we do compare the 2, but I don't think Thomas Tuchel is yet in Jurgen Klopp's league. But I do think that has aggravated Jurgen Klopp, the thought that he is just a shouter, a chest beater, and Thomas Tuchel is somehow this master tactician. I think Liverpool, since Jurgen Klopp has taken over, they have been supremely drilled.
Just a final one. Even with no fans in, and therefore not that much difference between home and away fixtures, do you think Liverpool's players will be concerned about their home form? You've got to go back to 16th of December for their last home league victory.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. They need to get back to winning ways if they want to get a top 4 spot this season. It's, you know, it's not like they've really lost to lots of world beaters. Okay, they got thrashed by Manchester City. They had the pants pulled down by Everton, but they lost to Burnley and Brighton, 2 struggling teams, didn't they? They drew against West Brom. It has been so disappointing. I don't think anybody saw the wheels coming off at home as they have done for Liverpool. So tonight they can put it right against a Chelsea team who were growing all the time under Thomas Tuchel.
Reaction throughout the evening to our early Premier League games and also on the Football Daily pod later. Wins for Tottenham and Everton away at Fulham and West Brom respectively. but now we're going to focus on the game at Anfield. Full commentary for the next 90 minutes or so. Enjoy Liverpool-Chelsea with Chris Sutton and, first of all, John Murray.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, welcome everyone to Anfield on quite a chilly night. Looking down from our commentary position high up in the stand here, I've just been watching Alisson, who is returning to the Liverpool team, as I mentioned, for the first time since the death of his father. Such a tragic event back in Brazil. And with You'll Never Walk Alone playing, obviously, before the start of this match, we will be thinking about the friends and family of Ian St John as well, who has died this week.
It was deeply saddened to learn of the passing of our iconic forward number 9, Ian St John. The same made 425 appearances for the club over the course of a hugely successful decade between 1961 and 1971, scoring 118 goals. Arguably his most important in the game that delivered the very first FA Cup in 1965 for the Red Three Leeds. Signed for Motherwell, the Saint was one of the key signings, one that helped put Liverpool on the road to greatness. Please now join us in a period of applause as we pay our respects to the great Ian St John.
The players gathered around the centre circle, just breaking away now. And Bill Shankly himself, I'm reminded in the match programme tonight, he himself put it this way: in the beginning was St John, because he was such an important part of the Bill Shankly Liverpool team. The players take a knee down there. The message being no place for discrimination. And we should also mention as well Phil Chisnell. The news has come through today that Phil Chisnell has died at the age of 78. So thoughts with his friends and family too. He was one of Ian St John's contemporaries, and famously the last player to move directly from Liverpool, from Manchester United to Liverpool. So the game begins here at Anfield. Liverpool against Chelsea. It was 6th against 5th